My spouse struck it rich with a $9 million lottery prize, initiated divorce proceedings, and evicted me from our home, but she overlooked the prenuptial agreement her parents compelled me to execute prior to our wedding. I, a 35-year-old man, hail from a modest upbringing. My parents reside in a peaceful suburban neighborhood, and I was raised in a compact, 3-bedroom residence that perpetually carried the scent of freshly washed linens and homemade dishes. Following graduation from high school, I held various temporary positions, serving drinks at bars, assisting at my uncle's equipment outlet, and ultimately overseeing a neighborhood athletics store. It lacked glamour, but it was respectable work. My wife, conversely, originated from an environment entirely foreign to me. Her parents possessed numerous estates, operated luxurious vehicles, and organized grand, extravagant gatherings several times annually. Let's refer to them as my father-in-law, FIL, and mother-in-law, MIL. My FIL was a towering, commanding presence, both in stature and demeanor, radiating a subtle authority in every setting. He would utter offhand comments that functioned more as disguised warnings or influences. My MIL was equally adept at understated criticism. A single arched brow could cause individuals to withdraw. They were never blatantly harsh in my presence, but I sensed their discontent simmering under courteous dialogue. Once my wife and I became engaged, I grasped how deeply her parents dreaded outsiders seizing their familial fortunes. They regarded me as an interloper, even though my wife and I had been in a relationship for years. Prior to establishing a wedding date, my FIL insisted I endorse a prenuptial contract. I lacked the resources to contest it through legal means, and I was too enamored to resist. I convinced myself it was merely a formality to satisfy her parents. Affection was the sole assurance I required, wasn't it? The moment I signed lingers clearly in my memory. It occurred on a balmy afternoon at her parents' enormous estate. My FIL placed the paperwork before me, pushed a writing instrument in my direction. My MIL provided coffee, as if it were a standard commercial exchange. My wife remained at a distance, contributing minimally. That pained me, but I dismissed it, assuming it would prove irrelevant over time. The agreement essentially stated that any presents, bequests, or fiduciary accounts from her family stayed her individual property, whereas any significant possession we obtained together, such as a residence or lottery gains, would constitute conjugal property. I found that peculiar, but I simply desired to wed her. 6 months afterward, we exchanged vows beside a scenic lake in an idyllic ceremony. My parents were daunted by the opulence, yet encouraging. I remember the strain on my father's countenance as he interacted with my in-laws. He had always advised me to heed my instincts, but I believed romance would overcome all reservations. The initial pair of years passed without substantial conflict. We occupied a condominium her parents assisted us in acquiring. I remitted payments toward the loan each month, although the initial deposit originated from her endowment. In retrospect, it was never genuinely a present, rather an instrument for dominating us. But at that time, I presumed this was standard for affluent households. Our union experienced typical financial disagreements and sporadic arguments regarding our parents meddling in our choices. They would arrive without notice, deliver fresh furnishings or accents, and sometimes rearrange our whole dwelling uninvited. My wife would minimize my irritation, describing it as her parents' benevolent disposition. Then arrived the moment that altered everything profoundly. My wife phoned me, breathless with thrill, announcing she had secured a $9 million lottery prize from a spontaneous ticket purchased at a fuel station. Initially, I was overjoyed, envisioning resigning from our positions and exploring the globe. But the delight faded rapidly. She demanded we maintain secrecy, even from my parents. She grew strangely cautious, discussing proper claiming of the funds and consulting with attorneys unknown to me. When I requested to attend these sessions, she replied that I would feel uncomfortable, which wounded me. I had no idea the true revelation was impending. One evening, I returned from work, fatigued, to discover her there with her aunt searching through compartments. She revealed the information as though it were routine. She was pursuing separation. She instructed me to gather my belongings and depart the condominium. A setup, she asserted, was registered solely in her name. I was stunned. Certainly I had provided monthly loan payments, but evidently she thought her father's original deposit and her recent wealth rendered me unnecessary. I sensed my spirit fracture. I contacted my father, voice trembling, informing him I had just been expelled from my own residence. It was the supreme disloyalty. But the greatest surprise followed. I learned that my father-in-law had dispatched his private counsel to safeguard her. They aimed to remove me to segregate the lottery gains from my reach. Except they had neglected the stipulations of the exact prenup they imposed on me. Rather than fully protecting their daughter, it indicated that any boon obtained during the union qualified as shared property. Abruptly, I recognized that if they proceeded with separating me immediately after that prize, they might not retain it entirely. I resolved to manage matters prudently. My father encouraged me to remain composed, secure a lawyer beyond their network, and prepare for a fierce battle, and I was resolved not to yield. They had issued the challenge, treating me like a disposable annoyance. If they assumed I would silently retreat, they had gravely misjudged me. I passed several evenings at my parents' house attempting to process the astonishment. My mother was furious, declaring that my in-laws had been discourteous from the outset. My father, though similarly incensed, remained practical. He reached out to a longtime acquaintance, a specialist in family law, and arranged a consultation promptly the next day. Seated in that attorney's workspace, I experienced a mix of rage and solace. I described how the in-laws mandated the prenup, how my wife had just claimed $9 million and then ambushed me with separation. When he examined the prenup, he actually laughed softly. They had undermined their own position, he stated. They had deliberately incorporated wording that categorized lottery gains under conjugal assets. Unless a magistrate performed some extraordinary legal maneuvering, I was due a considerable share. Hearing this was akin to a rescue line. I had been anxious that the prenup would exclude me, but it emerged that their dread of me accessing inherited riches had eclipsed the chance of a lottery situation. My attorney cautioned it would not be simple. My in-laws were prosperous, influential, and probable to unleash a full legal squad. But he felt we possessed a solid argument, particularly since I had added financially to the union and been suddenly ousted from our mutually resided home. I inquired about the separation procedure. In our jurisdiction, a disputed separation could readily extend for months or beyond. But if my wife's team acknowledged their weak footing, they might pursue a swift agreement. The attorney forecasted they would attempt coercion or sneaky strategies to persuade me to relinquish my claims inexpensively. Indeed, my father-in-law soon left me a threatening message, urging me to withdraw because I merited nothing from his daughter. He asserted that if I attempted to claim the lottery gains, he would guarantee I received zero. My attorney simply instructed me to record everything. Then my mother-in-law confronted me outside my parents' residence, proposing a trivial amount if I would disappear silently. She portrayed it as a bountiful offer, which was so meager it would not even offset half the loan contributions I had made. I declined, stating we would meet in court. She sneered, perplexed by my resistance, evidently unused to rejection of her funds. With discussion stalled, my attorney submitted requests to protect the lottery funds from concealment or relocation. That infuriated my in-laws, who began spreading stories about me being a fortune hunter who targeted their naive daughter. It hurt, but I remained steadfast. My employer, who ran the athletics store, supported me, dismissing my father-in-law's efforts to interfere with my job. Acquaintances chose allegiances, some labeling me vindictive, others commending me for resisting. The pressure was overwhelming, but I declined to surrender. After a few weeks of unproductive talks, we obtained a court appointment. My wife was absent in person. She was essentially sheltered by her parents, disregarding all direct interaction with me. She had her attorneys handle communication, alleging I was the parasite who added nothing to the union. My attorney rebutted with monetary logs, vacation expenses, and the clear prenup provision on boons. We also emphasized how I had been forcibly excluded from the condominium. The magistrate directed both parties to ready for a more official session on property allocation. In one final coercion effort, my father-in-law pressured my employer again, who immediately rebuffed him. That merely intensified my father-in-law's fury. My attorney said we must advance cautiously, but that he was assured a magistrate would discern their bluffing. Nothing could have readied me for the ultimate confrontation in court, but at least I knew the legislation was, ironically, favoring me due to the prenup they mandated. Weeks elapsed, and the strain surrounding the forthcoming session hit a peak. My wife continued evading personal contact with me, yet her attorneys inundated mine with requests. They maintained the lottery victory was individual property since she acquired the ticket, disregarding the prenup wording that any substantial boon during the union was conjugal. Meanwhile, my father-in-law attempted to tarnish my image among companions and professional associates, promoting the story that I was a fortune seeker who wed into the family purely for wealth. During this time, I felt a blend of annoyance and drive. If they thought they could intimidate me from my entitlements, they were wrong. I possessed records demonstrating my additions to our common existence: service invoices, food purchases, partial loan remittances. My attorney and I scrutinized every aspect of the prenup. He highlighted a vital phrase specifying all monetary boons, including but not limited to lottery or contest prizes, shall be deemed conjugal assets unless specifically noted otherwise. It was as if my in-laws had unwittingly created an opening. A week prior to the session, we attended a preliminary review meeting. My wife appeared with her parents and a group of attorneys, 4 lawyers, plus a monetary consultant. They eyed me with that identical aura of supremacy, but their faces wavered when my attorney serenely presented the prenup text, underscoring the precise clause on lottery earnings. The magistrate heard attentively, appeared unmoved by their effort to reject it, and mandated that all major assets stay immobilized until the primary session. That same day, my mother-in-law approached me outside the judiciary building, suggesting we converse maturely. She attempted to propose a total even smaller than prior, calling it ample for someone from my origins. I rejected once more, saying we would allow the magistrate to determine. She retorted that I was ruining the family, as though I were the one who surprised her daughter with separation. That duplicity enraged me, but I maintained composure. My attorney had alerted me against heated interactions that could be misrepresented later. In private, I feared my in-laws might attempt to conceal the lottery funds in hidden accounts. My attorney, foreseeing that, sought judicial directives barring major movements. We also prepared a financial examiner if we detected fund concealment. My father-in-law's ire surged. He left me a message labeling me despicable, blaming me for sapping the affection from his daughter's existence. It was ironic, given they were the ones who expelled me right after the prize. As the session neared, I readied thoroughly with my attorney. We practiced my declaration, ensuring I would seem composed and objective in court. I held duplicates of the prenup, invoices for the loan I partly financed, and even messages where my wife recognized our shared expenses. The attorney suggested I keep responses brief, allow the proof to communicate. If they attempted dramatic displays, we would respond with evident records. On the session morning, I waited before the judiciary building, pulse racing. My parents joined me for encouragement, though they remained outside the chamber once activities started. Entering, I observed my wife positioned next to her father, both with icy demeanors. Her mother hovered at the rear, arms crossed. My father-in-law's attorneys, in their refined attire, appeared assured, perhaps thinking funds and legal power could surpass the truth. The magistrate, a firm woman in her 50s, proceeded efficiently. She permitted each party to offer points. My wife's primary counsel attempted to depict me as a negligible participant who did little beyond sharing the space. They contended the lottery buy was her private deal, made with her funds. But my attorney steadily noted how the prenup plainly grouped such boons into conjugal property, and we also possessed banking logs indicating she used our shared account card that day. When we submitted that proof, I noticed clear unease spread through my father-in-law's group. The magistrate inquired if they had any opposing records proving it was her sole funds. They hesitated, alleging the card was used by mistake or that it was her father's placement in the account. But the records explicitly showed our names, not hers alone. The magistrate noted it, her look turning to them expectantly. At last my wife spoke. She asserted she never intended to harm me, that her parents urged separation once the prize came to safeguard family holdings. She faltered in her speech, confessing she felt coerced, but also attempted to rationalize it as everyone would pursue us if they learned of the money. My attorney questioned if she had discussed with me before these choices. She conceded no. The magistrate's discontent grew evident. By noon, it was apparent the prenuptial contract was a two-sided blade for them. The exact paper they enforced to separate their riches now risked placing a huge portion of lottery funds in my possession. The magistrate planned a follow-up session for ultimate resolutions, noting she leaned toward classifying the lottery as a key conjugal asset for fair division. Outside, my father-in-law passed me murmuring, "This is not concluded," but his assurance was certainly damaged. In the weeks before the ultimate decision, their urgency increased. My father-in-law's attorneys attempted all tactics, submitting requests to rethink the prenup's phrasing, arguing purpose had not been to encompass lottery earnings. The magistrate rejected these, citing the clear wording. My mother-in-law attempted approaching me again, cautioning I would lament it if I fractured their family. I informed her directly that they initiated this by expelling me and surprising me with separation. My wife attempted contact, leaving heartfelt messages saying she did not wish for such acrimony, that if we reached a private deal we could preserve some connection. I might have pondered it if they had acted justly initially, but following the coercion, falsehoods, and compelled removal, my faith was destroyed. My attorney recommended avoiding these unofficial discussions. We held a robust legal stance, no cause to accept less. At last, the ultimate session day came. The chamber was filled with counsel from both parties. My father, mother, and several companions attended for backing, sitting quietly behind. The magistrate assumed her position, examined the revised documents, and permitted closing remarks. My father-in-law's chief lawyer attempted a final risk, depicting me as a sly exploiter who only found the prenup's gap after profiting from the family's kindness. My attorney responded with the direct truths. They compelled me to endorse the prenup. 2. It plainly encompassed lottery or any boon as mutual property. 3. My father-in-law funded part of our condominium, yet I added monthly, so it was not purely individual either. Furthermore, the rapid separation submission right after the prize was classic proof of their scheme to exclude me from the gains. The magistrate heard patiently, then issued her verdict. She proclaimed the lottery gains plainly qualified under conjugal assets per the prenup's wording. She rebuked my in-laws for attempting to distort the contract they had created. She also determined that my wife's prompt removal of me from the condominium was unjust, and that I deserved compensation for my part of the loan and other union additions. In essence, the magistrate outlined an order. I would obtain a significant fraction of the lottery disbursement, plus compensation for my portion in the condominium. We separated with the completion date scheduled a few weeks hence, merely to handle documents. My father-in-law's expression was stormy. My mother-in-law appeared indignant, murmuring heatedly to him. My wife remained there, eyes tearful, perhaps from true remorse or perhaps from fury at forfeiting so much. I experienced a mix of satisfaction and sorrow. We had once cherished each other, but avarice, parental sway, and their efforts to manipulate me destroyed it all. In the wake, their attorneys attempted to suggest a marginally adjusted agreement, probably wishing I would take a lesser amount to evade more conflict. My attorney advised we complete the magistrate's verdict unchanged. We had no motivation to lessen it. The sole compromise I offered was relinquishing all claim to the condominium. I never wished to enter that space again. They issued me a payment for an remarkable amount. Was it half the prize? Not precisely, but it was sufficient to allow me to reconstruct my existence securely. Through it all, I understood that my in-laws, in their hubris, assumed riches shielded them from repercussions. They did not anticipate my effective resistance. The prenuptial contract they demanded ironically served as the tool that guaranteed my portion of the gains, a fitting retribution, if any existed. My wife, to my knowledge, stays under her parents' protection. She has lost respect in her circles due to the scandal that unfolded. Some shared contacts inform me she is grappling with remorse, but I question if she will ever publicly acknowledge her family's part in directing this. I allocated part of the agreement to assist my parents in improving their residence as thanks for their loyalty. Another segment I placed in investments, and though the whole experience left me marked, altering my perspective on faith, unions, and finances, I find solace in knowing I held my position. I declined to be coerced into taking remnants. While it was intensely agonizing, the ultimate result seemed like a victory over oppression. Now liberated from my in-laws' controlling hold, I am advancing. I have reverted to a basic existence, strangely similar to my days before the union. But I am tougher, more insightful, and far from the innocent individual they